Welcome back to another episode of Going Ultra. This time I'm going to be discussing Ultraman, episode 10. I believe it was episode 10. Anyway, yeah, Ultraman episode 10. And the guy from Audacity to Podcast, or the Audacity to Podcast, you know, that famous long-running podcast where he helps people figure out how to do it, says never apologize at the beginning or the end of an episode. But you know what? I'm going to break that rule. I'm going to apologize right now. I've been trying to get cleaner and cleaner audio. Been doing a better job of it, I think. But I don't think I'm going to have a chance to make this episode, and I want to get it out today. So I just got to do it now. So anyway, all that out of the way. Episode 10 of Ultraman. Of course, these are full spoiler, talks, analyses, reviews, whatever, of the episode. We got like a big, we got a couple big reveals or twists or surprises or whatever, some more information. So, Seiji Hokuto is not Seiji Hokuto. That is a made-up name. He was very possibly the one on that plane who was being targeted, that Bemular, it appeared. Okay, and then another thing. And Adad met with Bemular and basically said, hey, I've been listening to MJ of Going Ultra, and I've decided that he was right and that you, Bemular, were in fact not trying to destroy that plane. You were trying to protect something there, and it got destroyed, Anyway, that's what it looks like happened, because at the end of the episode, Seiji, the so-called Seiji, is reminiscing on his past, and it looks like his mother and the alien guy whose name I didn't get, who took him in as like a surrogate son, and gave him his limbs and stuff. Seiji has these memories of them being there during a fire, and I believe that's after the plane crash, and then apparently Bemular connects the two of them to, I don't know the flow of events, but somehow it looks like Seiji, whatever his name used to be, was on that plane when it was destroyed. He lost his arms and legs, and then Bemular connected him and this alien guy, I'm going to call him Tech Dad for now, together, and he ended up repairing or, giving him these artificial limbs, these prostheses, prosthetics, so that he could, live a normal life, but also to conceal his identity from someone. I don't know who he was trying to conceal their identity from. Is it the Star Cluster Council? Is that who Adad is looking for? Because Adad is looking for somebody who's very talented, and he's been sent by the Star Cluster Council to do that. So, everything's all wrapping in and on itself, and it's very, very interesting. I was kind of blown away by all of this stuff, and I don't know, I'm a little bit at a loss for what to say and to really know what's going on. I think I like this more complex plot, though. Bemular, the first enemy, being this real rough figure who saved the life of one who looked like they were trying to destroy, or who had looked like they were trying to destroy this plane full of, innocent civilians, but was actually there protecting at least one of them, if not all of them, from, the sudden death caused by the plane crash. He's a little bit more of a complex figure because he attacked, yes and no. He attacked Shin Hayata, he stabbed him through the, gut, but Shin made a good point when he was talking to Shinjiro at some point. He was telling him, this guy could have killed me at any time, but he didn't, so what's going on here? And honestly, I believe Bemular could have killed Shinjiro at any point, but he chose not to. And then in the stadium last episode, during Renesayama's show, he cut the roof and it fell in on the crowd, but, which isn't great, but Shinjiro ended up saving everybody anyway. So, and he said, because you're trying to be Ultraman. He's there attacking and harassing and stalking, so to speak, Shinjiro, because he's trying to be Ultraman. Why is that the case? And now my mind is going back to the first episode, when Shinjiro knew of the powers, and was, doing the test in his suit how was it that he and Bemular got into the conflict with each other? I know he was soaking up on the Renesayama sign, and then Bemular came after him. But at that point, he could have killed him and didn't. But wasn't that when he ended up transforming into the suit? So he... Gosh, I can't remember, and I wish I could, because I feel like it would help me, have a lot more clarity while discussing this. But, I don't. So I'm just going to let it go as opposed to dragging on, boring you with my failed memory. Yeah, there are a lot of other things, like the implication that Adad and Jack are, like, buddies, maybe, and that they're both undercover. They're both working undercover for the Star Cluster Council, is interesting. And I really want to know Jack's thing. I think he's an Ultraman, or he'll turn out to be an Ultraman. But again, this show is based off of manga, and the manga has like 11 or 12 chapters total. So I'd actually be curious to see how much, I could probably just wiki it or something, which I'll do before the next episode, or I'll leave it in the show notes for this episode. I'll talk about the adaptation speed. That'll be my topic. I'll do a little research and do some writing on that. But first, of course, I'll have to finish the episode, prep it, and all that stuff. But I don't want to bore you with that. So anyway, I think he's an Ultraman, but I'll find out later, or I won't try to find that out on purpose just yet. But I will try to find out the length of the manga and how far the show has gotten into the manga so far. That'll be interesting. Anyway, so besides that, they're both undercover or whatever it seems. Do they both work for the Star Cluster Council? I'm really curious because Moriboshi was super vague with Shinjiro, and he didn't make it clear to him whether or not Jack is a human or an alien or a human-alien hybrid. Maybe that's his deal. Maybe that's the truth, and Moriboshi just didn't want to talk about that. Another thing is, I totally thought Seiji Hokuto was lying when he was telling his story, and of course Moriboshi did. And I don't know, but he says like the facts of why he's there. Like I think the things that I think he lied by omission. I think he told them truthful things. He gave them factual information, but that isn't necessarily informing his actions or his plan that he's undertaking. Let's see. Gosh, I understand. Oh man. So yeah, his philosophical thing too that he's presenting is really interesting, and I think it's very interesting because I'm 30 or whatever, but this kid grew up in an alien culture, basically hidden in the alien city. Oh gosh, that makes so much sense. If he's being hidden from somebody, it would make sense that he would be hidden among aliens, so that he wouldn't be detected. But then is he fully human? No, he is. His DNA is human. That's what they said at the SSSP headquarters. So, gosh, or Science Patrol headquarters. So, wow, that's really interesting. Anyway, so let's say this guy's fully human, but there's something special about him maybe. In general, and that's like why the plane was targeted. Let's go off of that theory. He grows up in a culture where he's an alien among aliens, so to speak, because he's human and they're all just extraterrestrials from off this planet. He sees the plight of these people, these individuals, these beings who are forced to hide their identities and live in this subculture and this enclave where they can be themselves, but still mostly they're asked to maintain a veneer of humanity, to blend into the human culture or whatever. And gosh, how interesting that is, like what a toll that might take on an individual. So I totally see where Seiji's coming from, and like why he would be such an extremist, why he would see things in black and white. We saw he threw all this cash at Tech Dad, which he was giving him the money because we live in a real world and it takes resources to do things, and to have him build him the Ultra suit, it makes sense that it would cost all this money, and that Tech Dad would be willing to do it, one, because he loves the kid, and two, he can only do it with the resources. So I get that, but he gets up and basically cracks his knuckles and says, it's time to go beat up some bad guys or whatever. And I think he's talking specifically about like finding and blackmailing people, or finding criminal people who he feels morally okay with beating them up and taking their money. of course, stealing is wrong and beating people up is wrong, but in his larger perspective and his warped perspective, he's saying, hey, these are bad people, so I'm just going to do what you do with bad people, which is beat them up and take them down. And if I happen to get some money out of it, then, great, because it's helping my noble cause, which is to bring aliens into, like, out of the shadows and into accepted society. So that's all really interesting, and I kind of appreciate that the show is shifting us away from talking about the morality of the death and killing of aliens to this like other thing. It's funny. Seiji says to Mr. Ide that humans have always been hostile to foreigners. How much more so people who are not from the same planet as you, but are from maybe even a different solar system or whatever. And I thought that was such a really interesting point, especially because I live in America, so I don't really have room to talk. But I do believe that America is less racist now than it's ever been. But I don't know if Japan is less racist than it's ever been, and I've heard that Japan is fairly racist. So anyway, but they did. If you saw last year's Super Sentai, Lupin Ranger versus Pot Ranger, they did have a foreigner, a gaijin, a black man who's a comedian and other things, who's actually on a national kids show, which is pretty cool, and not just the Super Sentai. He's like a Blue's Clues type thing. He's on there. It's like a variety show kind of thing, but he's like a major player, and he's been in it for years, which is really cool. And saw this Vice interview with him that Aleph from from Laser Knees, rather, the Laser Knees Super Sentai podcast over at trialofheroes.wordpress.com that he linked to. Anyway, it was this interview with Vice, and he was talking about, I want to, whatever. I'm here for these reasons, but I think it's great that I'm on the show because, I hope I can, kids seeing me, they, next time they see a black person, or when they see a black person, in the wild, out in the streets or whatever, a visitor to Japan, or if they go abroad, they won't have all these presuppositions about them, or negative presuppositions. They'll be like, hey, they're a black person, just like this black person from the show that I watched when I was a kid, and oh, that's, cool, I'm open to that. And I guess, I was making a reference to me and Seiji being similar in our different cultural disposition, which is I've grown up with sci-fi, for years, for decades. I've been into this stuff and thought about the concept of alien life forms and other people or other peoples and stuff, and it just doesn't seem to make sense to me that aliens must automatically be evil. And that's kind of a point I brought up earlier, and that's kind of a point that the show's explored, and that's something that Seiji's saying. Aliens aren't all evil, but if one steps out of line, it's going to rain down human suspicions and fears, and they'll want to ostracize them, much like they're ostracized now. Look, nothing has happened. These aliens haven't done anything except for the 30 or 50 or however many the Ultraman had to kill back in the day. But aliens are living here peacefully, but they're ostracized and living in this not altered state, but in this alternate. They're hiding in the shadows, and that's wrong because it should be acceptable for humans to accept aliens. But humans are awful, so I'm going to kill all the evil aliens. He's got this very warped black and white perspective about how he's going to bring peace to the world through killing all these people. Especially because if you look at the concepts of blowback and stuff from what the United States has been doing all over the world, when you kill somebody who's doing something wrong, you might just make their mourners into martyrs for future causes. So they might take up arms against you, the oppressor, for snuffing out the life of their fellow, their brother, their relative, their father, their uncle, their whatever. It's something you got to be careful of. So anyway, he's a kid, so I get why he wouldn't be familiar with the concept of blowback, especially because most adults don't even understand it. But anyway, I just think it's I'm really interested to see where this is going. I like all the variety in the scenarios and how it's changing as we move through the story. Things are getting more complex and more interesting, and it feels like a really well realized world, and I'm very happy for that. And it's just making this watch more enjoyable. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I'm going to get out of here. You can check out all my other stuff. I've got a playlist that will pop up if you're watching the video version, and if you're just checking out the audio version, all the stuff I do is linked over at mjmunoz.com, so you can find everything I do there. And yeah, if you're watching either way, if you're hearing this and you're not subscribed, please subscribe so you can follow along and get the releases of these episodes as they come out. Something I should have done on Going Ultra 1, I should have released another episode in that feed pointing people over here, even though it's about a different show. They're related, they're Super Raya things. And if you don't know what Going Ultra Season 1 is all about, that's about SSSS.Gridman, which you can pirate if you want, but it's also available through Funimation now through their simuldub thing, so you can check that out. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So anyway, thanks for listening. Again, leave comments to help me be a better analysis review talker guy. Thanks.